Being an NBA general manager is one of the more interesting jobs in my opinion. You have to balance a budget, manage egos, but more importantly, you have to acquire pieces that one day will translate into a championship. Now we all know that is easier said than done. The pieces have to be talented, fit well with one another, and ideally, they need to be young and still on their rookie contract so you can maximize the window of opportunity. This is so difficult to achieve that even a team like the Philadelphia 76ers, who tanked for several years, still have not checked off all of those boxes. But if you're able to, you can go on a dynastic run similar to the Chicago Bulls in the early 90s or even the Golden State Warriors in recent memory. And honestly, I believe a team like that exists in the NBA right now. A team whose core is so well constructed with young talented players that the only way that you can piece something together this impressive is if you were on a character select screen of all of the players who were no older than 23 years old and still on their rookie contracts. You know what? That actually gives me a really good idea. So first, let's get our score. A little bit more efficient than Donovan Mitchell. I definitely want to play some defense. Above average is definitely ideal.
Perfect.
Brandon Ingram is in the middle of what we like to call in the industry a breakout season. Earlier in Ingram's career, he was known to be a jack of all trades, but a master of none, which made him a competent starter, but definitely raised some concerns, especially when it comes to scoring, since a lot of people had his ceiling around Tracy McGrady, but it seemed as if he was going to max out at DeMar DeRozan. However, that has changed significantly this season. In a year in which BI has seen nothing but improvement, the most noteworthy growth has to do with his volume of scoring and his efficiency. Now, how impressive has his growth been for the young forward? Well, if you were to look at all of the players in the NBA who average at least 24 points a game and started to rank them amongst their efficiency levels, Ingram is surprisingly high in both effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage, and he's actually not that far removed from being top 5 in both of those categories. And the biggest reason for this has to do with the massive improvement of Ingram's ability to knock down free throws, which has made him a much more confident driver to the basket, as well as his ability to space out the floor behind the three-point line, in which case has made him an elite level floor spacer, especially when it comes to the corner three ball, in which he shoots above 40% in both right and left corners. But what really separates Ingram is his ability to knock down a mid-range jumper. And even though Ingram isn't a mid-range god like Chris Paul, shooting roughly around 43 to 45% on a healthy diet of mid-range jumpers definitely keeps the defense honest, and at times it makes it nearly impossible to stop him. However, I would be highly upset if I didn't point out two factors of Ingram's game that separates him from your stereotypical volume scorer, especially the young ones. The first one is Ingram does not dominate the ball. Unlike a lot of volume scorers, Ingram has the ability to be impactful even when he's off ball, especially when he's in transition, cutting to the basket in a half-court set, or again, just spacing out the floor with a corner three ball. Because of this, it doesn't really feel like Ingram is taking away from his teammates since he's able to produce in the flow of the offense. And the second thing is what I pointed out earlier. Again, the young forward was known to be a jack of all trades, which early in his career was perceived to be somewhat of a negative since it was hard to identify his game. However, now it is a massive strength, because even though, yes, there are players who can score and their efficiency numbers aren't that far removed from Ingram, how many of them are good defenders, solid rebounders? And I would argue Ingram is a vastly underrated passer. And even if you can find a player like that, more than likely they're not 23 years old or younger. Outside of what we've recently seen from Jason Tatum, I really don't know if there's that many well-rounded young volume scorers the league has to offer. And this year, Ingram has proven that he is indeed one of those few players. But Ingram can't do all of the playmaking, so let's go ahead and get us a passer, preferably one that can play defense. I like Simmons, but gotta be able to space the floor out beyond just, 5 feet from the basket. Great pick, Lonzo Ball. Now, I must admit, even I was a little harsh on Lonzo early on. However, I think a lot of that just has to do with me putting expectations on Lonzo that other people place upon him without just accepting Lonzo for who Lonzo is. No, he's not going to be the next Magic Johnson, and maybe he is a new age Jason Kidd, but at the end of the day, Lonzo is Lonzo. Before entering the NBA, we all knew Lonzo was going to be an exceptional passer, and in my opinion, he's already exceeded those expectations. And then when it comes to what he can do defensively, he definitely revealed some elite level potential on that side of the ball early on in his career, and he still has been able to translate that onto the Pelicans as well. But the one thing that we were all concerned and waiting for is that when was Lonzo going to be able to knock down a three-point shot and properly space out the floor? And this year, he has been sensational in those regards. Very similar to his teammate, Lonzo has seen a lot of improvement this year, but the most noteworthy growth has to do with his shooting efficiency, and in particular, his three-point shot. With Lonzo being a borderline elite level three-point shooter, it has really changed the dynamic of not only his game, but also what we can expect from the Pelicans moving forward. And it seems like Lonzo is only getting started, because as of late, he has been sensational. Since Christmas, Lonzo is averaging 14 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, while shooting 43% from the field and 41% from behind the arc on 7 three-point attempts. And even though these may seem like small victories for someone who was, well, we can all admit it, overly hyped entering the NBA, there are still growths that needed to be seen from someone who has a lot of upside in this league. But I do believe that upside won't pertain to demanding double teams or attacking the basket or even being a superstar caliber player. So that'll be the next type of player that we'll choose. I like Bam, but we need a little bit more scoring. I don't know about DeAndre Ayton. Really don't know if those numbers translates to wins. Oh man, as I'm looking at it, it's not too many young players out there who are going to give you some interior presence.
We have big news from the Pelicans regarding the #1 pick in the draft. Just say it, Jay.
Zion Williamson.
Zion Williamson.
Zion
Is Zion Williamson.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Yeah, boy.
Man, it really feels like adding Zion to this team during the middle of the season is a cheat code. Now, at first I was going to make a video specifically breaking down Zion and his game, but you know, that definitely feels a bit excessive for someone who's only played like 15 games. However, I do feel confident in saying that Zion has all of the potential to be the next great superstar in this NBA, and more importantly, is a great fit for this Pelicans team. Williamson is tenacious on the boards, impactful in the post, so much so that the opposing team is already sending doubles at him, and more importantly, he is producing at a level that will translate to wins immediately. If you look at his on-off numbers, they already pushed the Pelicans into elite level status in many regards, and if you look at their record, it's more proof that more than likely this team will be a winning franchise moving forward. Now, the most interesting aspect of Zion's career so far is that despite him being undersized, it doesn't seem like that's going to be a disadvantage for him whatsoever. Zion already understands proper post positions, he understands how to seal off his defenders, and even for some big men who should have a noticeable matchup advantage, Zion makes them look undersized, which definitely raises some concerns moving forward for the rest of the league, since it seems as if we're moving further and further from a traditional lineup with a 7-footer manning the paint. Now, until further notice, Zion clearly has his flaws. However, that's the beauty in this young core. Follow me for a second. Let's look at the Golden State Warriors and what they were able to build between Curry, Klay, and Draymond. Curry's biggest weakness is defense. However, that's okay because it fits well with two other defenders in Klay Thompson and Draymond. Klay's weakness is that he's not that great of a playmaker. But that's okay because you have two other really good playmakers in Draymond and Curry. And Draymond's biggest weakness is that he's not a scorer, nor is he a floor spacer. But again, that's okay as well because he's playing alongside both Curry and Klay. Now use that same logic for the Pelicans. Sure, Zion more than likely isn't going to be a great three-point shooter, but that's okay if both Brandon Ingram and Lonzo can continue to shoot at the level that they're shooting at now. And to be a bit more specific, Zion may be the type of player that needs someone else on the team to create their own shot down the stretch to close out games, which is something that we all believe that the Bucks should have next to Giannis, but it seems like the Pelicans have that type of player next to Zion with Brandon Ingram. Now, when it comes to Lonzo, sure, he's more than likely not going to be a volume scorer at any point of his career. But that's okay because you pieced him next to both Zion and Brandon Ingram. And when it comes to Ingram, even though I do believe he is a solid passer, he clearly needs other players around him to continue to play make for him if he wants to still be able to be a dominant scorer without dominating the ball, which he has in both Lonzo, and I believe he also will have in Zion as well. And finally, even though both Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram are talented within their own rights, I just don't believe neither one of them have that superstar potential that we see in Zion Williamson. And honestly, that's why I believe this young core has the potential to be extremely special. Acquiring a superstar caliber player is so challenging that some organizations will literally tank for years just trying to receive that piece, like the Philadelphia 76ers. However, it's just not that simple. You still have to find the right pieces that fit around that player, which ironically is something that the Sixers are struggling with right now. And even if you have special players, you can still fall short, like we saw with the Oklahoma City Thunder with KD, Russ, and Serge Ibaka. It's why the Minnesota Timberwolves, even with Karl Anthony Towns, still struggle just to piece together a winning season. And even deep down inside, even though it hurts me to say this, it's the reason why none of us really take the Denver Nuggets that serious, just because there isn't the right pieces around Nikola Jokic. However, when you do find that right superstar and you do have those right pieces, it can build something extremely special, like the early 90s Bulls, the 2000 San Antonio Spurs, the Golden State Warriors of recent memory, and I honestly believe for this next decade, it will be the New Orleans Pelicans. But with all that being said, people, please let me know what you think about the video in the comment section below. I'm pretty sure I'm going to receive some pushback, and that's okay. All opinions are heard. Make sure you leave a like, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and follow me on Twitter at Legend of Winning. I should probably do that way more often. But until next time, I will see you all later. Peace.